and welcome to the American Scouser podcast. Another Monday night. We are here. The crew is back. Everybody's semi-healthy, no pulled muscles, nobody getting scans or anything like that. That at least we want to share. I am your host, as always, here, Timuchin in Chicago. Decent weather. I can give you that update right now. We even did a couple of outdoor projects today, and that's crazy for Chicago in February. But with us, as always, is Gally. Gally, what's happening?
Hanging in there, just doing a thing up here in the Northeast. There's snow on the ground, but the weather's warm enough. Hopefully it will be melted by Friday.
And Bigler is in the house with his...
weather update is still stupid here. It makes no sense why you would do North Carolina weather because you don't get snow, but it's not warm either.
Like I say, I can't go. I mean, this has been extremely mild, and every time I say that, I feel like, man, we're gonna get one more ass whooping before the winter is out over here. But let's hope not. Let's hope not. Speaking of ass whooping, let's do some trivia, the favorite segments of all. Okay, here we go. This comes from BJ, as always. So the last time Luton Town played Liverpool at Anfield was when? Just kidding. There's no way you guys are going to know that. It was 2008 January, 5-0 in the FA Cup third round replay. So far, they have faced Liverpool at Anfield 18 times. With the records, I was kind of like scared to use this, to be honest with you, because it sounds like a jinx all over it. But 0, 8, and 10 is their record at Anfield right there. How many goals have Luton Town scored against Liverpool at Anfield? And as a tiebreaker, we'll do how many goals have Liverpool scored. 18 games, Bickler. You're up.
I'll go 13 goals.
And how many for us? Just let's do a tiebreaker in case you guys both nail it.
I will go 34 for us. Probably high. My guess.
It was 8 losses, 10 draws, right? It was 18
games. They have not won at Anfield.
They have not won. How many goals did they score in their 18 appearances there? I'll say they scored 9. We scored 23.
Damn, that's low. They scored 17. 9 of the 18 matches were actually a clean sheet. So they scored 17. And we scored 47 in those games. Most of these are obviously dating back to, 3 of them are like second division fixtures and stuff like that back in the day. I was afraid to use this because let's hope it's not a jinx and the trend continues and they do not score and we score loads. But first off, let's get to the weekend, which normally would be like an awesome weekend. And it was like a real weird feeling. We were kind of talking about in the post-match as well, with the injuries and stuff like that. There's like a huge damper on what normally would be Bickler, a great away results in I would consider a tricky fixture against Brentford because you kind of don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah. I think that's the thing, right? Kazi said it's a banana peel on paper. I think that's pretty accurate for that fixture. That's like one of the final grounds Klopp hasn't won away at. Mm-hmm. So it ticked a lot of boxes, right? It was, but yeah, two big injury scares there. I think that stuff is going to come out and settle, and we'll find out what's really happening there shortly. Both of those doesn't look good for Jota. So yeah, there's definitely some concern when arguably your best midfield over a year and a half is looking like he's going to be out. We've got Jota and Rare and back in really good form. That doesn't look good. There's news of possibly Mo's hamstring acting back up. So there's a lot of like what ifs here in a really critical stretch in the season.
Yeah, we went through like a ridiculous roller coaster of injury news and updates, and all morning we blamed Serzi for a majority of them. But really, if we go online, there was a lot of like, he's gone forever, he will never play again, and then this guy's gone a month.
Yeah, listen, hey, if you're gonna try to be the guy that breaks news, you got to be prepared to handle that. You know what I mean?
He does break news. I mean, he'll give you a link and a comment. It's the only person I know who can get incorrect news to me quicker than the weatherman. But I appreciate you, Sir Z. We love you, buddy.
I think it was kind of like by the way, if you are not on our Discord channel, shooting the link again right here. But yeah, you got to jump on. You can get up to the minute inaccurate news about injuries at all times from coming from.
You can also get great recipes on food for the weekend, and maybe you get envious and jealous of what people are smoking in the South. So all things considered, there's just all kinds of great content inside the Discord channel.
It was to the point where Brian was so like disturbed and depressed that he didn't even get to smoke all weekend, I think, because we didn't get any photos or any updates or anything like that. Like, it was just like, if these guys are all injured, what's the point of even smoking meats is what's
and so, and also for like the internationals, right? I think it's a really good glimpse into the highs and lows of America in one consolidated chat for you.
Pretty much.
So going back to the game, I mean, we're going to go back to the injury news. I don't even know how much we can go to it, to be honest with you, because there's so much conflicting reports, and I think we're not going to get some clarification and solid information until the press conference happens, which is about 12 hours or so from now. Gally, what did you make of the game overall in terms of like how it unfolded? Aside from the injuries, it's almost like hard to pick something not to be happy about.
Yeah, it was an outstanding performance. I mean, they put in a full performance. They took on an opponent who is difficult to play, not just for us, difficult for any opponent, especially in their building. They play, like many of these lower sides, they play the top sides better because of the way that their tactics match up against teams that want to play football against them. And I think when you have a guy like Ivan Toney, you're always, you know that you could be at risk to give up a goal. And to do that with, basically a makeshift back line, one that we haven't been using throughout the year, and then do it in addition with your backup keeper, I think is just an amazing testament. I got to say, like, I'll raise my hand. What Virgil is doing right now in the back is right back. He may not be back to his grade A top of the world level, but he is back to world class and in the conversation of the best of the best. And you can see him making others around him better and, more importantly, more confident in the way they play. And I think you saw that with Endo, who I'd argue, even in a 4-goal outstanding performance by many attackers, I think Endo probably was the best all-around player on the pitch.
Yeah, I thought it was like really solid, really. I mean, it made you say, we missed this, which is like great to say, first of all. But going back to the performances and looking at, I mean, what just Gally said, Bickler, it's almost like we are forgetting and we're kind of cruising along with a lot of missing pieces. I don't think we've ever done this in the past where, we've gone into games, aside from the time where we were playing Fabinho and Hando as center back. And that was like a shortage in only one specific area for the most part. I mean, we're missing people, like backups coming in. The injured guy just came back. The other guy leaves. But it feels like, is it just the depth? Or because we're constantly winning, we're not even thinking about the fact that now that Gally said it, I was like, oh, that's right. Alisson was out. Is like, I just remembered that he was out, for example. They didn't even think of it much during the game.
Well, I think part of it is that I don't think we realized how much we lost this summer, right? Because of how old the squad was. So, like, in a lot of ways, it always felt like we were dealing with missing pieces because there was so much newness in the squad coming into this year, right? But I think what's interesting is we essentially reshuffled and lost a lot of the back line for so long that we're slowly getting those pieces back now. Like, Robbo's back, Trent's going to take some time, right? Trent will be out, but like, we've gotten blessed with the Bradley situation being what it is. And now I think what I noticed yesterday was, and the great irony is like the strength of this team was his attacking depth, right? That was the strength of the side, and that's what we thought was going to pull this side over the line. What I noticed yesterday was like, we have this situation. Jota goes down, Mo maybe back out, and he's coming back in. What I'm noticing is like, and what's really giving me hope about the season and like the fact that this really could be a title winning side is what Gally said is Verge is back to, he may not be 1A, he may not be back to Elite 1, but he's 1A, like he's in the discussion now. Like he's back in that same realm. And as good as Van Dijk was, I thought Konate was immense. I thought he was back to he was back to running down elite speed on the Brentford front line consistently and in putting in tackles and making good decisions and having good shape. And so Robbo, he's maybe not back to his marauding best, but I can tell you what we missed was Robbo was his set piece delivery. Like that's there. Yeah. And we really missed that. And so like, when you look at this in a weird way, this team is kind of evolving into a complete team in a way that, we were really winning in a very one-dimensional way. And now I think I'm seeing a side that can beat you in a couple different ways. And that's what I took away from that game mostly.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't a lot. I mean, it's hard to pick performances that were not good, solids. I mean, like a solid 7 to 8. Everything else was icing on the cake. Even, I know when the Jones injury happened and we saw Gravenberg coming in, there was a panic and kind of like a cumulative gasp altogether because we were not we were kind of afraid of what would come out. But I thought he even did well. And overall, that's midfield is kind of holding his own. I guess let's talk about this, right? Because I felt like Brentford, similar to Fulham, kind of played, I want to say, a little naive. I know they were home, but I didn't think they sat back as much as I thought or I was afraid of, I guess, they would. But that enables our midfield to play a lot better because they're not, like playing against a congested defense. What did you make, Gally, of the Endo McAllister duo, with McAllister obviously being in the more advanced role, which is something we wanted to see? And I know Klopp was almost making it sound like his long-term plan was McAllister anyway, but now that Klopp is not the long-term plan, where do you see the future for Mac?
I mean, I've always said I see Mac's future forward. I see Mac as an 8 or a 10. I mean, I think in an ideal world, McAllister would tell you he'd like to play right behind a striker and play in an attacking role and create and play in like a 10 position. I think that's what he sees himself as. I think he can play any position across the midfield. And I think it's going to be interesting when the new manager comes in. And we've talked about this, Paul mentioned it on Facebook. I mentioned it last week on the podcast that people need to be ready. There's going to be a player or two that shock us that the new manager says, like, that guy's not in my plans. I'm going to go out on a limb right now and tell you that is not going to be Alexis McAllister. Because for me, he might be the most complete of all the midfielders we purchased. Because I think he can do everything across all 3 positions. We talk all the time about Jones's progression to become this complete footballer. I think we bought a player who we wanted Curtis Jones to become. He just already was there. We just hadn't seen it yet because he was pigeonholed into a 6. I thought, to your first question, I thought he and Endo finally clicked and looked like they understood when one could go in for a tackle, one would push forward, one would drop back and help a little bit. And I also think McAllister just looks so naturally comfortable on the right-hand side. And when Mo came in, it got even better. And, Bradley, Mo, and McAllister had a nice little thing going for parts of that second half. And I thought it was really refreshing. It was almost like that period 2 years ago when we were watching Mo, Harvey, and Trent create this like synergy on the right. And I think McAllister is doing that. And I know Paul and I keep going back to Soboslai potentially being more of a deployed attacking player than a midfielder. I genuinely think Soboslai is going to find it hard to fight his way back into this starting lineup if McAllister continues to hold down the right-hand side, because I think, and who knows what happens with Jones, but McAllister and Endo right now on that right-hand side looks to me like the most balanced I've seen two players play together in that midfield. And we all know my love affair for Jones, so.
Yeah, and that's the thing, though. But to be able to have them all on the pitch at the same time, would Endo be the one holding the stick at the end because he wants to still have Mac, Szoboszlai, and when Jones gets back, Jones on the pitch? Or do you think Bickler, he will make some kind of an adjustment, or could either Mac or Szoboszlai play on the left while Jones is gone?
I think. Listen, I think if Endo hits anywhere near the form he's hit the last two matches, like I don't think the manager can make that call like in good conscience. I mean, Endo is playing lights out right now, and he's making everybody around him better. And he's the only player that we have in that midfield who is truly disruptive. Like, I mean, he's a problem for teams. Like if you watch how he comes back and he just does what Nunes does up top, deeper, in a way that really makes it difficult, in a way that none of our other players do. And I don't know, with his age and stuff, he's going to be limited, and there's going to be spots where you can't run him. But he doesn't have a ton of mileage on those legs for his age, and he's built in a way sort of like Milner, where he is really, really durable. So he doesn't have a lot of soft tissue issues throughout his career thus far. And I don't know, man. I think Gally may be onto something, and I'm okay with it. I'm okay with Szoboszlai. He's young enough where he can really be someone who is not a locked-in starter all the time. And then, of course, we know that we're looking at a window on Mo. So, like, what does life after Mo look like?
Yeah.
I've been asking for it. I don't know that we'll see it this year. I just want to see him deployed up there. I would love to see what it looks like. We saw so much of it. In fact, he was actually deployed for a large part of his Salzburg career on the left side as a left wing attacking player. So we know he can do both sides, and we know that we have 9 left wingers right now. But I would love to see what he does look like, regardless, across the front line as an additional option down the road.
And here's the thing, though, we talk about this, and obviously, he's not going to play till he's like 45. So the time is going to come where we're going to have to replace Mo one way or the other. But obviously, there's a lot of conversation. There was a lot of conversation that we were allowed to have. Some players, we can't have the conversation for them to go on sale.
Bro, don't go there. Don't go there.
We could with Mo, depending on price, and obviously the market was there. We don't know if the market is going to be there. But seeing his impact, Gally, almost feels like, man, he is worth doing an extension. I know it's something that we normally would not do with his age and stuff like that, but his impact and how he has evolved his game, it's not the same Mo from, let's say, 4 years ago, but his ability to create for others feels like the price for him has to be obnoxious for us to say, yeah, that sounds right. There's no thinking required.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we've been to this point. Nobody wants to sell Mo Salah. I don't think Liverpool ever woke up one morning and FSG was like, I got an idea. Let's call everybody and see what they'll give us for Mo. Like, it isn't like we're going to have a garage sale and we put him out in the shop window, right? But his age, it's going to come down to whether Mo wants to be here. And it's easy to say I want to be there. It's a lot harder to turn down 800,000 pounds a week and going and being the face of a league, representing a region of the world you are the face of. Like, this is part of it. Is like Karim Benzema didn't want to go there. He just wanted out of Madrid and he wanted a lot of money. Like, I think Mo actually deep down, there is a level of him that is interested in the challenge. And it might be playing in front, to Paul's point, playing in front of 700 supporters and changing that. It might be trying to make that league viable the way Ronaldo feels he's made it viable, right? Just because he talks about himself a lot in the third person. As far as the Mo contract thing goes, I still find it very hard to believe that they're going to give him a raise. And I find it even harder to believe he's going to sign a contract without one. And for that, I don't know that he's getting it. And I've said this before. He may still want to play at the top level in Europe. He also likes to score lots and lots of goals. And there's a club in France that'll pay him close to $1 million to replace a really big star. And they'll let him score 50 goals a year without really doing much effort. So I worry more about PSG being an alternate option for Mo. Should they need to spend that Mbappe money somewhere else and make a splash? So I'd almost rate PSG as the bigger issue right now, and then the Saudi League as number 2. But to your point, he is well worth giving a contract to. Yeah. I just don't know they're going to give a 32-year-old a 3 to 4 year contract at close to £400,000 to £500,000 a week. I just don't know they're going to do that.
And here's another thing. I mean, Brian says it comes down to economics and players' desire, which I do agree. And yeah, Sarzi says, I don't know about if he still has at least 5 years to offer. But at the same time, Bickler, with a new manager, and like Dom says, thank you, Dom. I was about to say something, with a new manager coming in and perhaps the style changing, clearly this is a lot more demanding physically, the way we play. A new manager, and let's face it, Mo usually is our counter option. He's probably the one that's normally expected to track back the least, but still has to do the counter pressing and stuff like that. Do you think a newer manager with a slightly different system that's less taxing, you can get 3-4 years? I just don't think you're getting 5 years of this Mo, especially in this system, if we continued in this system. But do you still get maybe 3 or so with a system that enables him to kind of use his skills without wearing him down?
I think if you're not including this year, I think you get maybe 2.
Okay.
And I know, it's the old term. I got a 14-year-old clearly, but I know he's built differently. But I wanted to say that, but it sounds weird now that I got kids. But I know that he legitimately is built differently, in terms of the way that he takes care of himself and his durability and stuff, right? But it's hard to say that I can see more than 2 years without some sort of drop off in his pace, right? Which is a large part of this game is predicated on. Here's where I'm torn with this, right? You got a new manager coming in. You're going to have a regime change. You're going to have new tactics. If the Saudi League is offering anywhere near the 250 that they're reportedly offering, you got a manager that can basically over the course of the next 3 or 4 seasons do whatever he wants to in the transfer window. And if you wanted to do a major overhaul and really shuffle the deck, which you don't need to, but if you wanted to, you now have the financial freedom to do that at will. So it really puts the club in a financial throne, so to speak, if he goes there. What I don't like is I don't want him to go for $100 million to PSG. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I'd almost rather you just run his contract down at that point. So the main thing is I think what the Saudi League would do that PSG maybe not be able to is offer $500,000 in wages a week. So we'll see what happens. I don't think it's the end of the world. I don't think the sky will fall if he goes, if we sell him in the summer. And I think there are some real positives. I just don't want to see that in between where we let him go to one of these oil clubs that wants to compete at that level. I just don't want him to go to PSG or somebody else.
I don't want him to go to an oil club. I just want him to go to an oil country.
Right. Yeah.
Just so we're clear.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I think if you do the 100.
Let's face it, the oil country in that facet is not as competitive for me.
100%.
And
I'm not going to say more.
I'm not going to sell El Etihad in the Champions League. Yes.
Well, I don't know. Be careful what you say. Be careful what you say.
I know they want 4 required slots for that league. We're a year away, and there's 4 teams that automatically qualify.
I mean, I think one thing with Mo is I know a lot of people say, the Saudi League, everybody's leaving and stuff like that. I do feel like there'll be another wave when the money is there. There'll be players going there, and Mo is going to have a lot easier time adjusting to Riyadh or Jeddah or whatever he goes than Henderson did. So it's not like apples to apples over here. I think we're looking at something totally different. It's a lot easier of an adjustment. And the person he goes there as is going to be similar to, he's going to be the actual Ronaldo, and like he's going to be the man of the league and stuff like that. So, being Muslim and, being like probably like all-time best Muslim player and stuff like that is a lot, he's going to go there with so much credit and so much hoopla that, it's not the same thing as Benzema going there or Henderson going there or anything like that. It's like a huge adjustment, I think, either way.
And I also think it's a different time now. And don't get me wrong, let's not get caught up in, where we are right now. But, I would never say that that our attackers right now are better than, the heights of Mo, Mane, and Bobby, right? But the 5 attackers we have right now are deeper than any 5 attackers than we've ever had. And they're more versatile than ever before.
Yes.
Like, we can get goals from a lot of different areas, including our midfield, including players like McAllister and Jones and Soboslai and Elliott. And they create and they score. And there's young players behind them. They're really high on Doak. They're still really high on Kai Gordon, who scored his first goal. I expect him to be on the bench tomorrow for Luton. I really do. I think he might even get a run out if we get a little lead, because I know Klopp loves the player. So like there are young players coming up as well. And I think with Darwin's kicking on, hopefully Gakpo takes his great performance on the weekend and builds off of it. And Diaz getting back to form. Like, there's a world where you can not argue you're better without Mo. But to Paul's point, you could argue that you have to weigh the options of where you are today and whether you could afford to use that money to reinvest around the squad. Because now you can buy the big time 6 you want to replace Endo when he's done. You can buy maybe an upgrade over the 8 left wings we have and get a world-class left wing like the kid at Napoli. Like, there are players out there that could still make us better with the talent we have. And I honestly think the steps forward Darwin has taken, if the new manager sees him as the talent that we do and Klopp did, like, I think Darwin enables you to do some things here because you believe you might have fallen on somebody who could score you 20, 25 goals and create and do all the other things. And I'm not saying he's replacing Mo. I'm just saying that the squad is more equipped now than it's ever been for Mo to exit. And this might be the summer it happens. Why are we even talking about this? We have a cup final on Sunday.
I mean, here's the thing, because it made me think of it during the game as well. Because, I mean, obviously,
right.
While Mo was away, we were still scoring the goals and everything. But when he comes in and you see the impact, you're like, man, you can still use this at any given day. And I think that probably goes back to what Bickler's talking about and changes that price tag and what it will take. Because I think the impact is still huge. I think we forgot. It's almost like things were going smooth and you had all these different sources that can create and score goals and stuff like that. But then, Mo walks onto the pitch and does what he does. And you're like, holy cow, like you still have such a huge impact on the team in this league in a tough away game that price tag has to be really hard to shift them over. Another thing from the weekend, obviously, right after our game, is City losing points. And we talked about this before. I know I've said it in the past that I do not feel this City team, they don't have the depth they had in the past, and they are more likely to lose points when everybody was freaking out after the Arsenal game. I mean, I kept saying, like, they are going to lose more points. This is not the same team. I know Kevin De Bruyne came in, and everybody was like, oh, now we're really screwed and stuff like that. But let me ask you this, Bickler. As of now, having seen how these teams are currently playing, who do you see as still like the biggest title contender against Liverpool? If you gave percentages between City and Arsenal, where are you at? Because I think maybe 2 months ago, you would still be like 80, 20, 90, 10.
Yeah,
and stuff like
it's more like 60, 40, you know, like especially the way that Arsenal is playing offensively right now. Like they are really quick. Like we all talked about Declan being the missing piece and everything. And I think that's definitely helped them. But Odegaard is world class right now. What he's doing in that midfield for that side right now is absolutely world class. And their center backs are playing well. And if you've got that, and you've got Saka clipping them in the way he's clipping them in, you've got some major pieces that side that are doing real. I mean, for fuck's sake, they figured out what to do with Kai Havertz. Looks
a player.
Yeah, I'd say it's 60-40, edging towards 50-50.
Where are you at with that, Gally? Because I know when we were talking this morning, Kazi was still at like really high with City. I think it's more. I assume, and I was like, we talked a lot about it this morning in the morning coffee show too. But I think it's a lot of the experience that they have that Arsenal really does not have. And I don't know if last year's fiasco in some ways helps that experience, or does it make it worse that they know, holy shit, this can slip.
So I think it definitely helps. I think you learn from experiences. If you're talented and you have winning mentalities, which I do think Arsenal is building a winning mentality, which is why I think they're starting to move forward. I was very critical of Arteta. I think Arteta has made changes. He's still a madman on the sidelines. He's not nearly as mad of a crazy ass person as he was 2 years ago when his team was leading the league in red cards because he was ultimately almost picking one up from the coach's box every match, right? Like, I think I'd go like 65-35, somewhere around then, leaning towards City. I think what's going to be Arsenal's biggest hurdle is I think this Arsenal team is better equipped to compete in Europe than they are to actually compete in the Premier League. And I think when you're a club who's never won a competition and you're moving forward in it, and if I asked you right now who the 3 favorites were in the Champions League, you'd be hard-pressed to get past Real Madrid, Manchester City, and not say Arsenal as the 3rd team. If they get the right draw with the right matchups, Arsenal could find themselves in the quarters of the semifinals of the Champions League. And if that happens, there's only one thing Arsenal fans want, and that's the trophy that Arsene Wenger never won. So I feel like if it comes down to one of those two, I think they have to focus on the Champions League. And those are some really high leverage games when games get really tight down the kind of the cash money end of the season. And I think that could be what tips the scales in City's favor to being our number 1 competitor. I think City is more equipped because of the way that Pep rotates, because of the tactics that Pep deploys, and the way he asks them to play on the pitch. And I think the Champions League might end up being a little bit of a distraction that Arsenal didn't have last year. And they still couldn't get over the line last year. So I think the Champions League might be the tipping factor for me, which makes me think City is still the bigger.
So that's the weird thing with Arsenal. I mean, last year I thought they would fall off because they're not used to, playing in Europe and stuff at the same time. And it actually backfired. The moment they got eliminated, they really went downhill because I don't know what it was. But that's 60-40 sounds about it. I'm probably more 70-30 because I feel like Bickler, like, City just lost points, right? And you expect them more to bounce back and continue as they play. Whereas I get the sense that if Arsenal gets a bad result, I can see them there. I find them more likely to lose points the next fixture. I feel like that will carry over more in a team like Arsenal as opposed to City. Not only by the experience, but I think probably goes to Pep and Arteta as well.
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough to say. I feel like Arsenal is playing better defensively, which is one thing that, typically we see City on the front foot so much they don't have to worry about that. But I feel like they're a little bit more vulnerable back there than they have been in the past. So it's tough to say, though. We're all right there. I mean, we're all like literally the goal differential. Like if you look at the sides, the amount of goals that we've scored, the amount of goals that Arsenal and City are within like a 3-goal spread. And so are the defensive stats. It's like, it's crazy how even this is. I mean, we want to talk about we talked about how the league, over the course of the last 2 years may not be as strong top to bottom, but like this is as much parity at the top of the table as we've seen in a really long time.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you guys this then. If tomorrow, while we're playing Luton, let's say City and Arsenal play each other. Obviously, a draw would be the ideal result. But if somebody had to win, who would you have rather win, Gally?
Arsenal.
Okay. So, yeah. How about you, Bickler?
Arsenal.
So we feel still like, they will be easy. Is that because of we have bad history and a bad taste in our mouths with?
I think that City knows how to play with a lead. I think Arsenal hasn't figured it out yet.
That's fair. Yeah, I think Yeah, I think we're all in the same boat over there. But having said that, I don't think it's. I mean, heck, a month or so ago, it almost looked like they were out of the picture. Obviously, a win against us, and that's why they celebrated like crazy, because they did come back into the picture with that, and City losing points only like encourages them further. But I mean, it's going to be really hard to talk about the game on Wednesday because we have no idea who's going to be able to play. But out of these injuries, Gally, which one do you think hurts the most? Obviously, Jota has, we know at least approximately how long Jota is going to be, 6 to 8 weeks and stuff like that. But in the long run, are you still more worried about Jones than Jota because we have depth up top?
I'm worried about Jones because until I hear someone say he's only out for a week, like until I hear someone say that, like I want to see it, because the fact that Klopp said, like, we knew Curtis was really hurt when he said he couldn't go anymore, and that kid would do anything to keep playing. And he tried twice to talk to physios to let him on. Like, they had to tell him no, which meant he couldn't even put weight or strength on his ankle, which to me makes me think that's more than a week out. So I'm a little worried about that. For this matchup, I'm most worried about the one that Paul mentioned earlier. I'm worried about the two ones we have no clue about. If any of these reports are true, that Salah and Nunez could be out for a week to 10 days, and we don't have those two players for Luton in the cup final, now it's different. Like, now you're starting Gakpo and Diaz. You're talking Harvey Elliott on the right in a cup final, and no Trent, and potentially no Allison. Like, this is where you're really talking down bodies. I would love to see, I'm really hoping Mo and Nunez are at least able to be part of the squad, even if they can't start against Luton. And I think that has as much to do with the weekend. We can beat Luton with reserves as long as we play the right tactics. The problem is I don't know that these guys can do anything except for go for it. And that's what Luton wants out of you. United showed it the other day. Like, Luton plays better against the top half of the table than they do the bottom. They're equipped, it feels like, to play the better teams that play football. They did it to City. They did it to us. They should have beat Tottenham. They could have beaten Arsenal. And, I mean, and to be all honesty, they outplayed United yesterday off the pitch. They just gave up 2 cheap goals. So I'm a little worried about this one. I'm not going to lie. I'm more nervous about this match than I have a home fixture literally since we were starting midfielders at center back.
But that's mainly due to the injuries.
Correct? Oh, yeah, it is. It's the injuries, but it's also the team we have to play. I'd rather be playing Brighton with all the injuries than playing Luton.
I'm with you there. And that Luton is a team that will play you hard for 90 plus, regardless of the score. And they want to play open. Like, this is kind of a little bit like what you see out of Forest too. And like, it's just, they're not teams that we match up well with. They are teams that can hit over the top on you. Like, they've got pace. If Adebayo is back fit again, he's a really scary young player. Morris has been playing out of his shoes all year. He's a legitimate Premier League striker that nobody knew was going to play the way he's played. They've got some the Nigerian kid on the left side has got pace for days. They've got, like, all of their wide players are burners. Like, it's a team that can cause a lot of problems. And like, if we don't have the attacking depth to basically sit them on the back foot for periods of time, it's going to be a real problem.
I think it's going to be one of those, like, how clinical we are when we counter, because I felt like against United blew so many opportunities on the counter. Like, they could have easily had a lot more goals. Every time they were able to counter, it was dangerous. If you're able to actually finish those, you kind of put them away. But they could not. They had like a 4-on-2, a 3-on-3. They had a 1-1 a couple of times, and they just could not finish against Luton, even though they were hanging on for like dear life back, like defending. But I guess, do you guys, because of all these injuries, then, Gally, are you starting with conservative lineup and then saving everybody just in case things go south and only using 20-30 minutes? Or is that just based on the fact that we have a cup final? If the cup final was not there, would you manage this game any different?
If the cup final wasn't there, I would do slight rotation, and then I would plan to rotate my tactics for Sunday and just do a Wednesday, Sunday like we've done 100 times before. Like I would rotate a little bit for this game with an idea at the weekend. I thoroughly expected the side we saw on Saturday would be the starting lineup in the League Cup final. And that's what kind of shocked me when I saw that Bradley was starting over Gomez, because I thought Klopp would reward Gomez with a start against Brentford, and then he'd be starting in the League Cup final. It'll still be interesting to see what he does with Gomez in that League Cup final. I have a hard time thinking he's going to start a kid over a guy who's been there longer than he has at the club and is arguably one of the players of the season. But maybe he will, because he wants Bradley's, attacking prowess to push the high moving fullbacks for Chelsea back, making them have to defend and that not being as much Gakpo. I think Gomez might start tomorrow at center back or on Wednesday at center back, because I don't know if you want to roll out Konate 3 times in 1 week, even as good as he's played, just because he's been prone to injuries at times in the past. So it'll be interesting to see how Klopp rotates. He doesn't have many options that they've kind of been taken away from him.
One of the options is probably like a midfield. And, we saw Gravenberch, and then we've been kind of seeing Elliott as play a better role, let's face it, like coming off the bench. If you roll with the same midfield of Endo and Mac, and I don't even know if that's going to happen with the cup final coming up, but I don't know how many pieces you can move over there either. Do you use Gravenberch because it's on the left-hand side, Bickler, or do you try to find a way to get Elliott out there, or do you have faith in Gravenberch?
So my original thought was you'd see a McAllister, Endo, Harvey midfield with McAllister flipped to the left. But with all, if there's attacking injuries, include Nunez, I think that you have to play Harvey up top. I don't see how you don't. I just think you kind of have to. So I think it's going to come down to whether Darwin plays or not, or what happens with that. And I think if Darwin's out, I think you have to. Let's put it this way: if Darwin's out, I think you have to start Gravenberch. I really do, because I think that you're really handcuffed at that point. So I think that is the kind of the key one that everyone's going to look at. I do think that this is a match that Gakpo probably starts. I think for me, I think you got to look at what's going on with the injuries. And it sounds crazy, but maybe McConnell gets a weird start here, a surprise start here. Because I don't do you want to are you going to play Endo 3 times this week? You know what I mean? I think you have to have him in the final. I think you have to. So I think this is one that's almost impossible to call. But it's really difficult because you need this one for the league, and Luton is a legitimate team. They play hard. They could easily come in and upset us at home here if they're not careful. So it's not a good situation, because how light do you go? How light do you go for rotation? And we know that Klopp doesn't like to flip teams. You know what I mean? He's not going to make. If he can help it, he won't make more than 3 or 4 changes to a side if it's even a really significant. We've seen this in dead rubbers. He doesn't make more than 3 or 4 changes. So,
and to be fair, when he does make a lot more changes, we've seen in the League Cup games and stuff, it's usually like a disconnected mess. So I can see why he would not want to do that.
We always look terrible. I mean, we always look like we don't know where we are. And then the question is, do we look like we don't know where we are? Or is it because we don't make enough changes so guys don't get enough minutes in their legs so they feel comfortable when they get an opportunity to start? Because then the other thing is Pep tinkers all the time. And Pep's only started the same back 5 3 times in the league so far this year.
Crazy.
That's how much he's freaking tweaked that team at times. It's always something different midfielders, different, one day it's Bernardo Silva, next day it's this guy. But they have that luxury because I think he has a little bit more faith with the fringe players in his squad. And I think we're getting there. I just think this is going to be a really, really, really tough one to navigate. And if there was ever a day for an early goal and get the crowd involved mid-afternoon on Wednesday, right? Early evening at Anfield. If there was ever a night to let the crowd kind of pull you in and then send you off to Wembley. For me, this is it. Because to Paul's point, assuming City gets their 3 points and gets back on track against Brentford, which I think we all assume they will on Tuesday, that puts a lot of pressure on us because they get right back to within a couple points of the league. We need to extend that lead. This is going to be our game in hand. So, this isn't one where you cannot get 3 points. It's a home game against a team in 19th or 18th position. I mean, I genuinely think this is a must win, and I think you don't need a good performance. This is one of those break glass, escape, and call it a day.
But I mean, that's a good point. I think in the past, like I say, we always did look poor when we rotated too much. But that was that partially because those people never saw game speed, and then they all saw it at the same time. You trotted out the same 11 all the time, and then it was League Cup. They were like, "Who hasn't played? Why don't you guys go out there?" And then nobody had, was used to game speed, so it took a long time, and you still had a lot of disconnect. The fact that we've had to rotate a lot, some due to injury, some due to suspension, some due to the fact that we have depth, does that kind of make the equation a bit better on our fact side? That you have guys like Elliott, who has played actually a lot of minutes, even if he hasn't started. You have Robertson coming back, but then Gomez has played a ton of minutes as opposed to just coming in to fill for right back out of the blue moon.
So, yes, I think definitely this side is more equipped to do that because I think the drop-off in talent from the starting 11 to that bench is definitely closed, that gap in quality, I think. So yes, but I think it's also a chicken and the egg situation because I think if you look at some of these squads that we have had, that when we've had these really disconnected matches, when you look at that squad, was there a bigger drop between Mane, Firmino, Mo, Henderson, Fabinho, Gini? Yes, there was a bigger drop, right? But there was also substantially less rotation throughout the year. So how are you going to close that gap and get these guys up into a position where you can rotate them if you don't? Remember, this is back when we had 3 substitutes and we didn't use them. We didn't rotate that squad. We ran the brakes off that squad. So I think part of it is you got to use your depth if you have it to develop it and to get those guys gelled. But it's harder to use that gap if you don't trust it. And we know that Klopp, if he doesn't feel like he's got it, he's just going to use the dudes that he loves. His same 13, 14. He did this at Dortmund across the board. He did it before that at Mons. So it's a little bit the manager style, but I think that we've seen that distance closed. But I'm not so sure that's because he's been forced to have to use it because of injuries and just changing the squad in general.
So that goes, okay, so that does bring another chicken and egg question. So was it due to not having the depth before, you think, Galio, or just not having the trust? So maybe if we did give the chance to good opportunity for us or whoever was coming off the bench, if we did give those opportunities, maybe if he had more trust, then you wouldn't have to run the legs off of, Genie, Fab, and Hendo and stuff.
I mean, I like to use the old analogy of there was a time where our third center back was Ragnar Klavan. So when you think about that, there was a time where we would go to the bench and the option, no offense, was a great opportunity for Ox, and he was coming off of 8 months on the training table. I mean, we weren't or we were going to the then 19-year-old version of Curtis Jones. Hey, I got an idea. Let's take Henderson out. Okay, let's put in Curtis Jones. He'll do Cruyff turns with his back to a defender on the sideline and send him in one-on-one with the keeper. We didn't have any depth. I mean, we all love Divock, right? We love the cult moments of Divock. Let's not act like Divock has ever been Cody Gakpo from a skill standpoint coming onto the pitch to make a change for a Nunez or a different player. It was just so different. The quality of our second team was never near this level. But you know why? We didn't buy young players to start then. We started buying young players to actually play roles. And I think this is the first summer ever that we invested in players we expected to play right away. And I think that's why we're seeing Klopp utilize them. He didn't play Harvey right away. God knows he didn't play Carvalho right away.
Or ever.
Well, that's a great point. He's probably never going. You know what? He probably literally sent a card to Klopp that said thank you. Like he probably sent a thank you card to Klopp when he announced that he was leaving, and then it was like, "P.S. My agent says there is a way back. Like just please, like let me have a shot. Like please let Xabi Alonso become head coach because I could see a role on a side like his." I don't know. I do think there is a lot to what the type of player we bought. I mean, we're talking about, just a different class.
But has
There was
Klopp
no
changed a
McAllister.
little bit? Because you brought the center back, for example, right? You said Klavan. We're starting Kwanzaa. Woods. I mean, how long did we go? Even though we signed, Kabak and stuff like that, he played still midfielders as center back without rolling the dice. Whereas, has he changed where we put Kwanzaa out there and said, you know what? You're a center back. You're a promising player. Go do your thing.
I think that's probably exactly what it was. I think in Kwanzaa's case, I think he was forced earlier, and he kind of earned his rights and earned his way into the setup. I also think it was forced upon him because Gomez had to literally become deputy right and left back and then starting right and left back, which forced Kwanzaa to step up and in some ways earn his role as third or fourth, string center back. But even remember when Matip first showed up and he wasn't playing Matip a lot at the beginning. Yeah. And then when Matip got in and Konate got here and we were like, will he ever get a chance? I don't know he would do that again. The one thing I will say, I think it was Sir Z said it earlier. I disagree completely. I think the one guarantee for the Luton match you can pencil in is I think Tsimikas will start at left back in that matchup. He's healthy. He's been on the bench for 2 matches in a row. I think he will spell Robertson, and potentially Gomez will play on the right-hand side of defense, either at right back or center back.
I honestly think Robertson starts personally.
I think he starts too. I can't remember the last time a healthy Robbo ever got rotated for any reason.
You think he's playing 3 times in 1 week?
I do.
I think if he starts him 3 times in 1 week coming up, even though it was an arm injury, I that seems crazy to me. And again, what is Tsimikas doing on this team if he doesn't start a midweek match where you want to make sure?
I agree with you, man. I'm just saying history says if he's healthy, he starts regardless of whether we think it's smart or not.
Did Costas come in on Saturday? Did he show up for like 5 minutes? Do I remember this wrong? I thought I saw him.
Let me check. I'll check. I got it right in front of me.
Because that would be my thing. Like, I don't know if he suddenly starts a guy. We just talked about like game speed and stuff like that. I just don't know if he starts a player against Luton, especially a physical Luton. That's the thing with like McConnell. Like, I worry about too. Like, do we play players that we know for
Robertson?
Maybe I played all.
Robertson played all. He played all. Robertson played all 90 minutes.
So maybe I just saw him on the sideline. I thought that's why I worry about that. I don't know if he just would play him. I think he would rather play Gomez at left before he put Costas in personally. I
don't see. I don't know. I think we're asking a lot as more and more player gets hurt.
Yeah,
I agree.
And less reserves. We're gonna now trot out Chambers. We're gonna go trot out Bradley 3 times in a week. After he was not training for a week and a half, dealing with personal issues and all the stuff and the travel he dealt with, like, to me, this feels as irresponsible as rolling out Mo if he's not ready, or rolling Trent back out too early. And I'm not saying Klopp did that, but we question whether or not these players are pushed to play too early. I just feel like we really need.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%.
Right.
I personally feel like he's going to take a look at that back line and say, who do I feel the least comfortable with playing 3 games this week? And it's going to be Konate. And that's where Gomez is going to go.
That's fair.
Yeah, that's fair.
That is probably the most fair thing you've said yet.
To be honest.
Yeah.
I probably do.
And I probably agree with that 100%.
Yeah, right? I mean, it's like, I guess. Like, if Klopp said that, well, you pick one, we'll be like, I guess Konate. Like, that's probably what we do.
And in a worst case, if you really didn't want to play Bradley all 3 times, then you play Kwanzaa at center back and you play Gomez on the right. And you start Robertson and Virgil. Obviously, Virg is going to play. He's proven he's back to Virg status. He can play 90 minutes. He barely runs. He barely sweats. He just looks pretty with his man bun out there waving to people and yelling at folks in the crowd. It's beautiful. Like, he really does look, and Virgil's back to his top form because he looks as condescending, as arrogant as ever when he does everything that he does.
Well,
And
you know
that
what's
was gone
interesting?
last year.
I know we're winning and I know we're playing better defensively, but like all the bullshit you hated about what he was doing is gone.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'm not talking about like his play. I'm talking about like the gesticulating and the sort of like yelling at his own guys and like that kind of stuff in the pointing fingers and stuff. All that's gone. And I know I don't feel like it's just because we're winning. I feel like
No.
I mean clearly like you look at that and you think like, so maybe this is a player who knew he wasn't where he was supposed to be, like from a talent from like a quality standpoint, was almost like eating that frustration. It was coming out against everybody else. But like, so I think him returning in this form has almost brought this self-assuredness that is so much better for the team because I don't feel that same negativity.
Yeah, it could have been like, you know, some of that negativity is basically frustration with his own self. I mean, that's it's kind of like hey, as we aging guys over here, it's kind of frustrating when you can't do stuff that you're used to doing and you're able to doing, especially at his level, and knowing that he still has to get back. And I think, yeah, it's not the same. I don't think the top speed is still there and stuff, but still, I feel like he's closest to we've seen him. And he's back to what I really loved about his game, which was being able to cut off like long passes and stuff like that and putting it right back into play with like a small header to Endo, to Robertson and stuff. And I do think they do have that chemistry a lot better with Robertson. Including him constantly yelling at Robertson. But aside from that, you know, like they do have a better relationship there. It's a lot easier for him to bring those balls and like just play it in front of Robertson and stuff like that as it was to Gomez. I think he felt like, and he had to, because obviously it's like a right-sided player, but protect Gomez a bit more than he has to do with like Robertson. Go ahead, Gal.
I think he's also, and I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but I think that there was so much uncertainty last year around the sixth position between how Fab was playing and the role in which, and then we tried the inverted Trent and it started to change things. And we always talked about like maybe changing all these tactics didn't help our center backs either. I think part of Virgil getting back to being like really good to maybe he's back to looking great again is having a professional veteran number 6 sitting in front of him and a partner like Konate next to him. So now you have Konate and Virgil and Endo in front of them and two workhorses, whether it's Soboslai and McAllister or Jones, right, on each side of them. All of a sudden, there is this formation of a stable balance at the back. And he's back to doing what he does best. And I think, like, we talk about it all the time, like, what made Darwin start to look like a center forward this year? Was it that he figured out how to do the press, or was it that he figured out how to play with Mo and he realized that guy's really bleeping good, and if I do the right things, he'll get me in positions to score goals? And I think that's kind of what starts to happen. It's like, I think things click, and I think more than maybe any side in the world, our players get better when the pieces around them are working. And I think that is a testament to Klopp's man management and the way he sets players up to succeed. And I think sometimes that gets lost when we talk about Pep and all the other tactical geniuses out there, even De Zerbi getting all this tactical nous. I think Klopp's tactics probably don't get spoken about enough because his man management skills are so dominant and in your face all the time.
Yeah, I think that's more his strength, I think. So when we talk about Klopp and his strength, we kind of like, you know, refer to that. So everything else comes as like a secondary. One thing most Dutch have is Alan would know. He used to live there. So he had to personally like experience that. Okay. I know it's almost impossible to predict a lineup, but we should still predict the score because that should be a lot easier, right? Bickler, give us a prediction for this tricky Wednesday game where you have no idea who's playing. Should be easy. Go for it. What's your gut saying? Apart from needing,
I'm going to go 2-0. I think clean sheet's brave, but I'm gonna go for it.
3-0 says Bickler. Gally, what you got?
I'm gonna go 2-1, and it's cagey and dicey and ugly, but we find a way to I don't know if we eke it out later. We get a couple in the first half and concede late, and it gets squeaky bum. But I think we do get the 3 points. But I don't feel like it's a warm and fuzzy afternoon at Anfield sending us off to Wembley. I think it's a hard-fought 3 points in the Premier League.
Don't like the sound of that.
Me either.
I'm going with, you guessed it, the Timuchin special. I feel like it will be an easy. Hey, I got it last time, nailed it, baby. I guess when you guess 3-1 every week, you get to get it right.
You know, you've really dialed it in when no one else on the show feels like they can pick that score. So I mean,
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't even going there.
Don't you dare come anywhere near my prediction. Yeah, I'm going with 3-0. I feel like if we get an especially another goal, we kind of like take the lead, make it 3-0, and as we're cruising, we put ourselves to sleep with the rotation and we concede one late, but we still 3-1. I even gave you a scenario, not even a score. So, and sounds like easy watching. A game I can enjoy, the dogs can enjoy. It will be a good one. But the 3 points is key. I mean, we got to get the 3 points. And I think putting that pressure on, when we talk about Arsenal, especially like a team like Arsenal, I don't think City feels the pressure due to their experience and having been in these races. But I know Arsenal would. And, you know, when you're up, when they feel like they have their like 4-point, 5-point gap, I think it's a bigger kind of like an issue for them. But we will be back Wednesday morning with the morning coffee show. And then obviously we'll be here for the pre-match as well once the lineup comes out. And hopefully we'll get the 3 points and head over to Wembley. And throughout the week, we'll definitely be talking a lot more about that. Do not forget to like, subscribe, hit all those buttons on the bottom, except the one that has the thumbs down. Don't get anywhere near that. But all the other ones, smash them like Bickler would say. And where is that? Here
like
it is.
And subscribe, smash that like button. Like and subscribe, smash that like button.
There we go. There we go. Just do what Bickler says. Well, only in this case.
Actually,
you don't want
just in this case. In this case, only people.
Only. we can't even play the video so that, you know, like people.
Yeah, we stopped playing the video out of respect for the sponsors. So we just bring you the audio at this point. But then again, I think sometimes if we had more sponsors, they'd probably ask that we went back to the days when this
man, I can't wait for the summer.
Was just audio.
Oh, actually, you know what? Maybe if you do that in the summer, we can get like a tank top company like to sponsor us, and then we can play the video in pride then. But until then, have an awesome week, everybody, and we'll see you guys Wednesday.